we'll just start it off officially now, and then we'll talk a little bit more offline after it's all officially done, maybe.
Yeah.
If we're not sick of each other by that stage. So
after all these years, I don't think it's going to go that fast.
No. So, all right. So I'm joined here with Rene. Rene, thank you for participating in the first ever blog or interview blog that we're doing. How are you? How are you? All good?
I'm good. It's interesting times that we are living in, but under the circumstances, I'm good.
Yeah. Well, they're definitely interesting times, and I think it's once in a lifetime type stuff that's going on right now. But
I hope so.
Look, I'd hope so too. But yeah, it's very, very interesting, especially considering closures of gyms and everything, and you know what's affecting us. So for those that aren't aware, Rune is director of KMG Norway, also expert level 5 with KMG, and part of the global instructor team as well. So, Rune, have you got anything to add to that as well? Like any? In terms of that brief bio that I just gave?
I think that covers most of it.
Yeah.
I have a few years of teaching, so and I run a club, so I run a gym also. So I know the troubles that gym owners all over the world right now are facing.
Yeah. So touching on that, or actually we could probably go over that later. Actually, we may as well go over it now. Touching on that, in terms of your gym, how big is your gym, like in terms of size? Because here in Australia, we hear the sizes that you guys have in Europe, and we're like, holy shit, you know, like it's that's massive.
Yeah. So the physical location is 2,000 square meters.
Yeah,
which is about 20,000 square feet. That's quite big. Yeah, it's huge. It's an old building that was built before the Second World War.
Yeah.
So it's a huge warehouse, and we're on the 4th floor, concrete building. The size is big, but it's cheap for us to rent. We don't pay that much for the rent, to be honest. It's a little bit outside the city, but it's a small city, so it's not far at all. So we're lucky.
And what happens in regards to like so in terms of rent, are you paying rent right now, considering like with all the closures and everything, you're still paying rent and all that fun stuff?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, so 3 weeks ago, the government closed us down.
Yeah.
Norway got hit very early with the virus, mostly because we had a break in school just before the big outbreak, and so we had lots of people going to Austria and Italy on vacation, and they brought it back. So we got hit very early. So the government very quickly closed down everything. Fortunately, our members are paying by a monthly fee, and because we're a small group, we're not a commercial training center like the big chains. We have a good relationship with all of our students.
Yeah.
And we haven't had anyone cancel. We haven't had anyone put the fee on hold or anything. So we had to let the instructors, the regular instructors that are running the gym, we told them that they cannot work for a period. Fortunately, the government is paying their salary right now.
Yeah.
So the costs that we still have is rent and electricity and all of this, and we are able to cover most of that by the regular membership fees and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I think we'll survive this, and we'll come out on the other end.
Yeah. It's just how long it's going to take is another question.
Yeah.
But, you know, we'll
Fortunately,
see.
we are moving into the summertime when you guys are moving into winter time. So for us, it's going to be a little bit easier. We actually were told just today, we were told that we can start training in small groups outside. So we can be up to 5 people in a group training outside. We haven't been able to do that up until now, but as of now, we can.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's snowing outside, so it's
Well,
might
your
be a little
summers aren't really
hardcore people.
summers, aren't they? Are they?
No, it's usually by April it would
Yeah.
be pretty nice weather here, but it's a long winter this year. So
Okay. Okay. Well,
nature is
let's
hitting up with everything it's got right now.
let's start off with like how you started on this Krav Maga journey, because that's how I know you. I know you through Krav Maga, obviously. You were my instructor that certified me to become an instructor. So as far as I'm concerned, you're my instructor. The way I see the way things work and the way the world works in Krav Maga anyway. So how did you start your Krav Maga journey? Like, how did that journey start?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, as a kid, I was doing karate. I was doing a little bit of kickboxing, a little bit of ninjutsu and stuff. And then as I grew up, I started working in the security field, and I was looking at different courses to put on the resume. So
Mm,
different security courses that I was doing, and I happened to come across an ad for Krav Maga in a Swedish magazine, and it said used by FBI, used by security forces and police everywhere. And that's actually what triggered me, because this was in 1996,
mm,
January of 1996. So nobody knew anything about Krav Maga.
mm.
Didn't exist at all in Norway. Um, but that triggered me. So I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Let's go. So I went to Sweden for a weekend, 2-day course. Eyal flew up from Israel to do the course, and after the first day, I was hooked, and I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to do this.
Mm.
So after the second day, they were advertising that they were doing an instructor course, 1 month long instructor course,
Mm.
and I signed up for that, and I got accepted, and so that was in February, and then 1st of April we started the course, and at the end of April I went back as the first instructor in Norway and started working towards putting Krav Maga into Norway.
Wow. And before that, so you were doing security and all that, but you're also I went through a bit of your little dossier that you sent me, and you were importing paintball. You were the first one to import paintball into Norway. Is that right?
Northern Norway. Northern
No.
Norway.
Okay.
A friend of mine, a good friend of mine, went to the U.S. for exchange year.
Mm.
What we were doing. What used to be the ninth, 10th, or the ninth, the 10th and 10th through the 12th year of school here,
Mm.
which is voluntary for us. So he went for a year, came back, and he had played paintball over there. And he was talking about this. So we bought the equipment, started a club, and we started renting the equipment out to people and started playing. And
Mm.
it was the first official one that we know of, at least in the northern part of Norway. So it was fun times.
Well, a bit of an entrepreneur, so that's good.
It was back in the days when the Splatmaster, if you know, it was the cool gun. It was you had 10 rounds in a tube, and you had to press, shoot once, press, shoot once, press, shoot once. So it's different times from today's paintball.
Yeah. Well, that also explains why you're so good at paintball in Israel when I was there this year. So last year, sorry, lost track of time. But so the reason why I think that's important is because, like, really, like, you're a trailblazer in regards to, like, an instructor in the Western world, like doing a new system just out of the blue. And not only that, like there you are, like bringing in paintball new into Norway, and there you are also bringing in later on, a few years later, Krav Maga. Having the responsibility of passing that knowledge on. So what was that like after you got that instructor's shirt and everything, and then you went back and there you were all of a sudden as an instructor, and as really, was it the only instructor in Norway, or was there someone else?
No, I was the only one.
Yeah.
It took a little bit more than a year before we got the next instructor.
Okay.
So it was crazy fun, very terrifying at times, hard
Mm,
work because you're going back, you're by yourself, and I remember because we did the 4 week intensive course. And I remember going back after the last day, and in my head everything was just spinning. There was so much information,
mm,
and they all said to us, wait a week, wait 2 weeks, let your brain process the information, and it will all come back to you.
mm,
And I remember the first day I was back. A friend of mine who was a national champion in judo, we
mm,
used to work together. He asked, "What's good? So, what did you do? What did you learn?" I was like, well, I think we did some punches and we did some defenses, and we just started training a little bit. And as
yeah.
I was as I was teaching him, I just, oh yeah, we could do this. Oh yeah, and if you're doing this, and then this and this and this,
Yeah.
and so it was definitely the process of going through the GIC today prepares you much more for teaching than what it did back then.
Yeah.
And then today, if you have an organization that you're getting into, you're getting help from the other instructors setting up schools. There's so much, operating procedures on how to do the stuff now that we didn't have back then.
Mm,
I was knocking on doors of other martial arts and saying, you know what, you guys are doing excellent taekwondo stuff. You want me to show you some self-defense skills, because
mm,
that's what we specialize in. And some people were very skeptical, some people were more open, and
mm,
slowly but safety, slowly we managed to do a seminar here, to do a seminar there. I would travel and do seminars for 2 people, basically,
yeah.
losing a lot of money the first couple of years. We started to expand. We started in later the first year. We started the first club here in Buda,
Mm,
and the next year, one of the one of the people from my club went to the through the GIC,
mm,
and then 1 year later, we had 2 more people go through the GIC.
mm,
So started spreading, and that the second year, so 2 years after, we had someone from Oslo going through also. So then we started the second club, and
mm.
then we slowly started to get the ball running a little bit.
Okay.
So yeah, but it was that was interesting, very interesting.
So
Kind of remind
how old were you when you were first
22.
22?
Yeah.
And Tommy also did that GIC with you.
Tommy Blom was on the same GIC. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
So Tommy lived in Gothenburg,
Yeah.
and in Gothenburg they already had a school, because
Yeah.
there were a couple of years before we did the GIC. We had two Swedish instructors going to Israel, training for a month, coming back, starting 2 different schools. So Tommy had already been training for 2 years before he did the GIC.
Okay. Okay. And you had the unlucky task of doing a GIC with virtually no knowledge of and prerequisites of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
There was a lot
That would be very
of
challenging.
new things, and light bulb moments going off and stuff.
Yeah. That would have been very challenging.
Yes, it is. I mean, and you've gone through the GIC.
Yeah.
You see the difference between somebody who's a P3 going through the GIC and somebody
Mm.
who's a G1, G2. That if you know the techniques, it's so much easier going through the GIC.
Yeah. Well.
Try going through the GIC with 2 days of training.
Yeah. I couldn't even dream about that. I went through it as a P5, and that was I really struggled with those guns. The guns and the stick stabbing was what I struggled with because I'd never done that. I'd never done it before. My instructor had never thought to even think about training me for that. So I'd never done that. But very challenging.
Truth be told, the system today is much more advanced than when I went through it. It was more. There wasn't so much of the tactical. There wasn't so much of, we didn't talk about timeline, teaching according to all of these principles that are so important today. It was much more fighting back in the day.
Mm.
fight way. The techniques were more single techniques, not so much as a complete system as it is today. It
Yeah.
has evolved a lot,
Mm.
uh, in a good way, and in a way it's more difficult to teach today. It's more needed to have people go through the proper GIC today than maybe it was back then.
Yeah, yeah. Well, definitely, there's definitely structure to it. The moment you go in there, there's definitely a lot of structure, and everything's got you got to really conform to that structure very, very quickly if you're not used to it.
Yeah.
So that is definitely the case. Now, in regards to your Krav Maga aspirations, so like I know when I first started Krav Maga, all I wanted to do was not be uncoordinated. And then as I started going through the ranks, I started going, okay, well, maybe one day I'll be a P5. Maybe one day I might be an instructor. Then maybe one day I might get up to G3, or maybe one day I might get up to G5. Like your Krav Maga aspirations, like obviously you're an expert level 5. Like, that's a level that most instructors, school owners, people, they can't even fathom that level. So where are your Krav Maga aspirations? What's waiting for you over the horizon, and like what's the next big adventure for you?
Well, the next physical adventure was supposed to be New Zealand in a week. That's not going to happen this
That's not
summer.
happening. I got news for you. That one's done.
Yes. No, listen, I have a lot of projects I want to work on. I get new ideas all the time, stuff I want to work on. I want to work on things with the GIC, for instance, improving the quality of how we teach GIC through online lectures, which can be, unified. So all of the GICs will have the same type of online lectures, for quality and financial purposes. And then, so that's one of the things I was actually starting to work on a month ago, doing some online project for that.
Yeah.
Other than that, I want to improve the organization in Norway and internationally through whatever I can help assist the international organization with,
Yeah.
and help spread, the organization, and promote the good quality Krav Maga that we have today, because there's so much bad influences from other stuff out there. So that's probably the biggest one, because and of course I need to train and get better. For when it comes to the curriculum at E5, there's no more curriculum. There's the master levels don't have any specific curriculum, but you always have to train to become better at the basic and intermediate stuff, and so I need to train on that. And there's always much to learn. We just did an instructor update with Eyal here in February, and there were light bulb moments that were like, I love this drill. I'm gonna go back and we're gonna use this with the students and stuff. So for me personally, definitely the journey is not over just because you reach E5. That's when mastery starts, and mastery is all about perfecting the basics. So yeah,
the training definitely never stops, because I find if I don't train a certain family of techniques for maybe 3 or 4 weeks, maybe because I've got an injury or something like that, and then all of a sudden I start feeling, okay, I'm injury free right now, I think I can do that again. All of a sudden I'm like, whoa, what's happened? I feel very, very strange in this environment. So no, that definitely is the case. I can definitely vouch for that. So in
I'm
terms
also
of
branching outside, of course. Because I teach MMA. I do MMA training. I went through some training with BJJ just in January and stuff, just to also look outside the box a little bit, to see if there are material that we can implement into the system, which we have now already through the ground fighting course, for instance. So it's important to never stop learning something new.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And like I always find that as structured as like KMG is, every instructor does have their own teaching style and their own way of communicating with their students. Um, like what would be the way you would describe your style of teaching, like in regards,
Hmm.
you know?
Uh, I think I would like to say that I have a relaxed style of teaching, and I use a lot of humor.
Yeah,
Uh, that's yeah. Well, you know my sense of humor when
I
I'm
do.
teaching.
I do.
Yeah,
I
it's
appreciate it.
not politically correct. It's and that's whenever I teach somewhere when I need where I need translations.
Yeah.
I teach in South America or some of the countries. That's the most difficult part for me teaching. Is
Yeah, the
that
comedy doesn't work.
it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Yeah, yeah. So now I like to I like to be a guide. So I don't want to be that dictator.
Yeah.
Uh, this is what you're gonna do because I told you that's what you're gonna do. I want to explain. I want to teach you exactly why you're gonna do it,
Mm.
not just how, but why. And I want to be more of your friend than your dictator, basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
although I do, I do enjoy to punish you every now and then. So
Oh, I definitely know that one. Um, so, all right. So that's your teaching style. But in regards to your gym in Norway, like what would you say is really unique about your gym? Because you've obviously been to a lot of gyms all around the world. You've seen them all. Like even from your experience in martial arts in the past and everything, like what would you say is different to the way you run your gym compared to and your gym in just in summation then?
well, first of all, it's important uh, to know that the gym is. I mean, we have Krav Maga, we have MMA, we have
Mm,
uh, CrossFit, we have weightlifting. There's so many things that you can do inside the gym, and we're trying to implement the same teaching style
mm,
in all of them. We want if you're coming in to do CrossFit or something, we want to teach you how to do it, but also why you should do it.
mm,
So that educating you, not just telling you what to do, but educating you in what you're doing and why you're doing it. I think that's something that we're trying to push in all of the different subjects that we are teaching here.
yeah,
And it's the way I teach, the relaxed and having fun when you're teaching and stuff is kind of rubbing off of the other instructors also.
mm,
So we can see that in when they're teaching the MMA and they're trying to teach in more or less the same way.
yeah,
That's important for us. We don't want to be we want people to really come here because they want to. That's
yeah,
because they have fun here, not just to learn something, but to have fun.
yeah,
We want them to kind of say that, okay, I have 1 hour, a couple of times a week. That's for me. That's just for me. I want to enjoy myself. I
mm,
want to go to the gym because those are the people I want to hang out with. Those are the
mm,
fun guys.
yeah,
So that's what we're trying to do with the gym.
mm,
And also because obviously since we have different styles, we've had people start with one of the martial arts, and then after a while figure out that this is not something that I care too much for. So I want to go and do some of the other styles, and then they
mm,
can jump back and forth a little bit. So that's
mm.
also something that's unique maybe to the gym because it's such a big one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, 2,000 square meters, that's something that we could only dream about here in Australia. Uh,
Yeah. Well, to be fair, most places in Norway it would be too expensive also.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So, um, do you train with your significant other? Like there's your next one. So tell me, like, because like for instance, my wife has only just started Krav Maga. She's only just took it on. She's doing women's only classes.
yeah.
So yeah, tell me, like, are you training with your significant other? And
Well, the timing of the question was very, very good
There you go.
because she just came in through the door. And right now she's hiding somewhere. I don't know if you see her, but
Bye.
Hi. I'm
so
just curious what he's going to say, so I'm going to stick around.
yes. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Lena is an instructor
Yeah.
with KMG, G5 level instructor. She doesn't teach much of Krav Maga anymore. She's mostly focusing on the CrossFit.
Mm.
I might return.
So yes, but we train together in the CrossFit almost every day in
Yeah.
some sense, at least. Yeah. So and she works for KMG here also. So when when we go to Australia, she will join and teach a little bit and train over there also.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and in regards to your daughter, like I know with my daughters, they're both doing the kids Krav Maga and everything else. So has your daughter taken to it as well?
She has tried it.
Yeah.
We used to have classes of 6 to 8 year olds and 8 to 10 year olds, and when she was like 5, she tried the 6 to 8, but the boys were too noisy, so she didn't want to do that one. So she jumped into a couple of classes for the 8 to 10 year olds, and she did better there.
Yeah.
But as of now, she's not actively training this. She's doing a little bit.
Yeah.
She's done a few classes. We've done some private classes with boxing gloves and shin protection and stuff. And then she likes that. She likes that a lot. She's actually taught self-defense in her school, in her class. She's had a class.
Whoa.
For her class. Yes.
The boys are afraid of her. She keeps telling them she'll kick them in the nuts.
Yeah.
Do something to her.
Boys in her class is afraid of her because she's gonna kick them in the nuts.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No. But she's very active in other sports. She's doing gymnastics a couple of days a week. She's doing ballet. In the summer, we do a lot of outside training together, me and her. And she's doing CrossFit a couple of times a week if she can get here. Now that we're closed down, she's here more. Yeah, she's been running a lot lately.
So bringing that on, so you do orienteering with her as well, and
yes, I do.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is?
Of course I do.
You had to Google it, right?
No, I didn't. Believe it or not, I didn't. But yeah. So that's something that isn't that big here, I imagine in many countries it's probably not that big. But for those uninitiated, do you want to explain like how you got into that and how you got your daughter into it as well?
Yeah. Okay. So maybe to explain first what it is for those who doesn't know it. It's basically you have a map and a compass, and then you're trying to find different stations out in the forest or sometimes even in the urban city areas, but usually it's in the forest, up mountains and stuff. And it can be competitive in that you start and it's the fastest to go through all the different 10 stations, for instance. Or it can be what we do more here, which is recreational, in that in the spring they're putting out like 50 different stations all over the area. Right. And then during the summer you try to find as many of them as you can, and you're getting a medal depending on how many you found and stuff. So you have to understand how a map works. You have to know sometimes you could use a compass, but really the recreational stuff that we do is if you know how to read a map, you don't really need the compass. You can just see you can find your way by just looking at the map, basically. Right. And that's what we do. I got into that when I was a kid. I don't even remember the first time my mom brought me, because we've always had dogs, so that was a nice way of letting the dog go for a run. And I actually asked my mom just this year when we started, and she's like, I have no idea. She can't even remember. She says that I started bringing her into it. I think she started bringing me into it. So many years ago.
Yeah.
But I've done it my whole life. Every summer we do it, and then once Ariella we actually, the first year she was old enough to sit in one of the backpacks. We took her, and now the last three years, me and her have been running every year, and we've been walking mostly, but this year we'll be running more of it because that's what I like.
Okay.
Yeah. It's good. You get outside, fresh air, and I'm a bit of a competitive person when it comes to tracking down something, and so orienteering is perfect for me.
Yeah.
I get a kick every time I find one of the stations.
Well, speaking of competitiveness, you also sit there doing obstacle courses with your daughter as well.
Yes.
So how many of those have you
something
done?
I started. I actually started that just maybe 4 years ago.
Yeah.
By accident. I think I got for Christmas one of them. And I was just halfway through the first one, and I was like, I'm gonna do this forever. This is so much fun. Yeah, that's so we're doing 2 to 3 every summer. Couple in Sweden, couple in Norway. So it's, and after the first one, we started bringing my daughter to there's a kid version of it also, obviously a little bit shorter. So the adult one is usually like 8 to 10 kilometers of running and 40 obstacles, and the kid is 2 kilometers of running and maybe 15, 20 obstacles.
So do you do the course with her as well, or she just does that one by herself?
No, I do it with her. So usually when we do the toughest, which is the Swedish one, it's on the Saturday, it's for adults.
Yeah.
And then on the Sunday, it's for kids.
Right.
And then there has to be one adult, and then I can bring as many kids as I want. But usually it's me and her that are running it. It's been my girlfriend has gone through it once with us, and then we've had some other people who usually runs with us that also have done the kids version.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And she enjoys it?
And she enjoys it. She's very eager. She are not always as happy as me when we go into the cold water and and the mud comes into her hair. But no, she once before we start, halfway through it, and once we're finished, she's very happy with it, and she always wants to do another one. So that's a good thing.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So, in regards to, well, we basically covered pretty much all your hobbies outside of Krav Maga just there. Like, are there any other hobbies that, no one else knows about outside of Krav Maga?
Well, that's not so much time. That's a problem. I love escape rooms. Whenever I can go to an escape room, that's something I want to do, or that I do. Every Christmas, my parents-in-law, they get me a puzzle, like the puzzle that you put together. They keep getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
I again, once I start puzzling it, I don't finish until I finish, which is there's a lot of late nights that I should have been to bed at least a couple of hours before, and just one more. I'll just get this one. So yeah, so that's something we do a lot. And then it's just travel.
Yeah.
Travel a lot. So yeah.
Okay. And all right. So moving on to going back into the Krav Maga arena. Personally, I get the shakes if I haven't done any Krav for a while. Do you find Krav Maga therapeutic for you? Like on those days, obviously you do it, you're sitting there doing MMA and BJJ and other things as well. But in terms of the Krav Maga side of things, do you find that therapeutic, or do you find that can sometimes heighten your senses a little bit too much and you need something else to calm you down? How do you find Krav Maga?
First of all, I find all sports, therapeutic
Yeah.
in a sense. But definitely Krav Maga, because I've done it for so long.
Mm.
It's both. It's sometimes it's relaxing for me to teach it because
Mm.
I don't have to worry about other stuff on the outside, and I've done it so long that I'm pretty good at it.
Mm.
So that I can go and teach a class without too much planning or worrying too much about what I'm going to do. Um, so it's in that sense it's relaxing. And then once because I don't get to train so much myself, that's that's a curse of becoming an instructor.
Yeah.
So once I can go through go to the instructor update that Ayala is doing, and I get to train by myself, that's very good.
Mm.
um, I try at least a couple of times every year to go to train with someone else, just to have that influence, whether if it's martial art with my martial art instructor in Gothenburg, or I go train with some of the other instructors here or something. I have to do that, but for the most, except for that, it's more teaching that's for me than training. Although teaching itself is good training also, 'cause you have
Oh,
to do
definitely.
techniques and you have to be sharp on your techniques.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
That I can definitely vouch for. Especially now during this whole crisis, it's actually very, very difficult now, I find, to just be sitting there in front of a camera teaching.
Yeah.
It's, you're not getting
Yeah.
you're not getting that energy from the students that you normally feed off.
The first couple of times I did the live streaming, it was horrible because it was like nobody was laughing at my jokes, and you couldn't see any. Because usually when you're teaching, part of teaching is actually correcting people.
Yeah.
So at least 20, 30, 40% of the time that you're in the gym, you're looking and you're correcting somebody. And when there's just a one way teaching that we've been doing mostly so far, you don't get to do that. And then you're like, okay, I should say something smart now, shouldn't I? Probably. Because you have to allow them to have time to practice back home. So we haven't done much of it because you guys are doing like Zoom or two-way communication.
I've been doing Zoom, and that helps a little because basically I can see everyone, so I can give them live feedback. The only problem is that I need to have a really, really big screen so I can see it, and off a laptop it's not very advisable to rely on that. But look, it seems to be working. It seems to. There's nothing as good as having a training partner right in front of you, like actually doing something. But I'm doing the best I can with the tools that I've got at the moment.
Yes.
So
as long as we cannot have physical contact, it's never going to be perfect, obviously. But we do have some couples that are training, so they can actually train together. So you can have if it's on Zoom or Skype or whatever, you could actually do personal training with the couples that are living together anyway. But it's more difficult. It's easier with when we're doing the fitness training because you don't have to interact with someone else. You're doing it by yourself anyway. Most of the martial art training ends up with being punching and kicking in the air and visualizing attacking and defending and working on motorical skills, which actually is not bad. If we're looking at if we're going to try find some positive out of this, we actually get a lot of training on basic motorical skills and basic punches and basic kicks and stuff, which is good. It can mean that once we get back to training with the people in class, we're actually better at the basics and can focus on more of the self-defense techniques. Once we get back.
Well, I know this is probably an opportunity to focus on those dry drillings and really focus on breaking down those techniques a little bit more. And that's what I've been doing. I've been trying to break down those techniques and, those foundation level techniques of the P1 and P2 and really try and drill down into them into a lot more detail. But it's still difficult. Now,
It is. It's a transition, both technologically and what we're teaching and how we're teaching it.
Yeah, I never would have thought this at the beginning of this year, that this is what I'd be doing. But hey. Now, it brings me on to the next question, which this is always an interesting one. Well, especially when my students actually come up to me and they tell me things that, how Krav Maga has helped them. Now, has your, affinity for Krav Maga helped you persevere through anything difficult or difficult time, or difficult situation? And do you care to share that with us?
Yeah, I was thinking of that, and I cannot recall having anything that's like really big issues that I've gone through. I've gone through life with the ups and downs and stuff. I broke my knee in Krav once, couldn't train for 9 months. But because of the good instructors I have with me, they helped me teach. I actually broke the knee on the day before we were doing a big camp with a couple of 100 participants.
Oh shit!
I was supposed to teach, but because I had some really good instructors with me, I was on one leg teaching, and they were jumping around and doing techniques and stuff, and I was relying a lot on them.
So you were the voice and they were the bodies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I've done that a few times when I've gotten injured. Yes.
Yeah. And obviously the fact that I do have the gym and that I do teach, it's sometimes it's forcing you, maybe not to get out of bed in the morning, but at least it's forcing you to remain on the path, to do to have some structure in your life, when it's maybe not going in the direction you want. You have the gym, you have the teaching as an escape pod from reality sometimes.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, definitely. Now, what would you say now? This one's always an interesting one, because I've asked this to a few people. What would you say would be the most difficult project or class you have ever had to run?
Going back to when I started, obviously the whole project of getting Krav Maga, into Norway, spreading it, and that would have been the most difficult one. Because as I said, I almost knew nobody. I wasn't presenting a product that people had heard about. Nobody had heard of Krav Maga back in the days.
Yeah.
And I didn't have, at that time when I started, I didn't have the contacts. Some years later, I was the first one to introduce CrossFit in Norway also.
Okay.
First instructor, first box and everything. And I went through some of the same problems, but then it was much easier because I already had all of the Krav Maga clubs. So I had the contacts and I could just go there, and they started couple of Krav Maga people started with the CrossFit. It was much easier to spread it. But yeah, definitely that has been the most difficult, for sure, project that I've done. It's a huge project.
Yeah, I noticed one of the things that you had sent me, you had actually taught at your local shopping center. That's something that I had never even thought about doing.
Yeah. So we have a shopping center in town, which is basically it's like regular stores, and it's a street, and they just built a glass roof over the street between the shopping center and the stores. It kind of became an indoor street, obviously because of the weather here. And but that means it's quite an open area. So when we started, I think we did that in 1999 for the first time, and then we did 3, 4, 5 years in a row, we rented the place on a Saturday when it was the busiest time, and we invited the boxing club, the karate club, taekwondo. We invited all of the different martial art clubs to join us. Everyone had, I don't remember exactly the time, maybe 5 minutes, 7 minutes to make a presentation of their sport. And then they could give out flyers and stuff afterwards. And so we did that every year. Saturday is packed with people. So we had in the hundreds of people watching from on the outside. So that was really good. It served a couple of purposes. One, obviously, it was advertisement for martial arts, and we were new, so we were it was good for us. We covered all of the expenses. We did everything. What the other clubs needed to do was just show up with somebody who did the presentation. So we did all the work. But then again, obviously, because we were new, people who had heard about Taekwondo, they came to see the Taekwondo, but they saw the other stuff also. So we had some advertisement effect for us because of that. That's basically what we did it in the beginning. And then the other thing is that it kind of bonded the different groups of martial arts a little bit together. So it wasn't us against them, but it was, the first gym I had, the biggest Taekwondo club rented a place with us. So they rented our gym. I went to them to teach them self-defense because they're Taekwondo, they're not good at self-defense. They came to us to do some kicking techniques because they're Taekwondo, they're really good at kicking.
Yeah, they are.
There was this exchange of, what you're good at, you can teach us, and what we're good at, we can teach you guys. Which was it was good. It was good the first years when we were doing that.
Yeah, that's something I'll definitely, after this whole COVID thing happens, I'm very interested in doing something very similar. That just, the moment I saw that, I'm like, okay, that's something I haven't even tried doing. That's probably something I should probably try that.
Yeah, we did that. Like I said, we did that 4 or 5 years, and then I remember there was a big boxing competition here, and we had a presentation with them also. So we did something in the ring for a couple of minutes in one of the breaks. We did in I think it was one of the big Taekwondo competitions. We also had a presentation. Lots of music and kicking in the groin and rifle defenses and pistol defenses and stuff that they don't usually see so much. So it was good.
Look, I think with what you went through in Norway and what, like here in Australia anyway, the problem that we've got is very, very similar, where the majority of people don't know what Krav Maga is. Like obviously in Europe, let's forget about, Germany and Denmark and all that, the exceptions to the rule where everyone knows what it is. But in regards to in Australia, it's you go up to anyone and they ask you, well, what do you teach? And you tell them Krav Maga. The next question is, what the hell is that? That's what, unfortunately, the knowledge isn't there. So it's very, very challenging to try and educate people what it is and try and build a gym and a community. But in saying that, it's actually very rewarding. I find that, like, being with Krav Maga Global, it's been very rewarding. Being part of that KMG community, and also like being a school owner and having all the students, knowing all the students. I take a lot of pride in knowing all my students anyway. Probably one day I probably won't be able to do that if I get that big, but right now I can. But where do you, how important is the KMG community to you and to your gym?
It's very important. I mean, the gym is one thing. I have people in the gym that's been with us for years. We have some new people, we have some old people, and it's always been a very good community. But because I travel so much, it's much more than just here. It's the international, and that's really why. Because if I were an independent club, I would still have the community in the gym.
Yeah.
If I belong to another organization, I would still have the same community in the gym. The gym doesn't change, but being part of Krav Maga Global, I get to go to Australia every year. I've been there every year for, I don't know, 7 years or something.
Yeah, 2006, was it 15? 2015, I think it was. No, sorry. 2013 was your first year that you came here. Yeah.
So I've been all over the world, and I'm so lucky that I get to go back to Australia and meet friends in Australia. And then I can say to friends in Australia, okay, see you guys in a couple of months in Israel. And then suddenly a couple of months later, we're in Israel. I get to see people in the US. I get to see people everywhere, and people whom I consider my friends, and people I would never have met if we were not part of Krav Maga Global.
Yeah, it's definitely a very unique lifestyle. It's something that, like, my wife thought I was having a laugh. Like, she thought, oh, you're just going out to go train with all your friends. Like she was very, very jealous. Now she's starting to do it now as well. But it's definitely a very unique lifestyle. Like, and the bond that instructors end up having with each other, and especially instructors that end up grading with each other. They end up going through quite an experience together. So it's.
I mean, at the grading, you see people at their lowest.
Oh, look, I'll be the first to say that. I don't know if you remember Gold Coast, but that was not fun. Having food poisoning and doing that grading, that was not fun. But I got through it.
Yes, you did. Yeah, that's. I mean, I have people say, "Oh, you're so lucky. You get to travel so much. You get to go this and there and everywhere." It's like, yeah, I'm lucky because I get to see the people. I'm not lucky because I get to fly everywhere. And
that's
usually
not the fun part.
No, and usually when I go somewhere, I don't really get to see much of the place, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, the first time I went to Australia, Adam took me for half an hour in one of the lunch breaks around Newcastle. That's what I got to see of Australia, because I landed at night the day before the course started. It was dark, didn't see anything. And the moment the course finished, boom, we went to the airport. I'm off again. So people are saying, oh, you get to travel so much, you're so lucky. And I'm like, the traveling is fun the first couple of years. And after that, that's just a hassle. It's the people in the community. That's what makes it worth it. Yeah. Somebody who hasn't been to Australia don't know how freakishly long that flight is.
It's freakishly long. It is, especially when you're leaving from Israel. That was
a long way.
That was an incredibly long flight for me and Chris. That was a really long flight going back. Now, bring on to the next point. The most memorable interaction you've had with someone regarding, like, your Krav Maga journey. What would that be?
Well, I'll sleep on the couch tonight if I'm not going to say that I met Lena at the training. So obviously she would have to be one of the most important ones. There we go. But apart from that, yes. But apart from that, obviously, Eyal, I met Eyal during the first weekend course that we did. He did my instructor course. We've spent so many days and nights together after that, traveling around, teaching and stuff. And so he's always been a mentor to me. So he's probably the most important one that I've met in the Krav Maga specific journey in that sense. And then obviously Tommy, that went through the course with me, he's become one of my best friends, and I call him my brother, and we've been together since the first course. those are probably the strongest ones. Yet, I mean, there's so many that you and so many other instructors that I've had the luck of meeting and training with, and you know, meeting repeatedly, year in year out. So yeah.
Yeah. And like in 2015, you got your award for excellence.
Yes.
What was that like?
Well, it's a business award for those who didn't know it. KMG wanted to give out awards to directors who were running the organization outside of Israel in the best sense. So yeah, we won. We had a good organization when it comes to. We had nice numbers of instructors. We had. You know, the financials were in order. We were doing good events, spreading the name into a lot of clubs and stuff. To be honest, I was a director, so I won it. But you know, Lina works as the logistic manager, so she has a role in it also. And I had a guy that were doing the internet page. It was a group of us that was working together. But it at that time, it was we were probably one of the more functional organizations within KMG at quite early.
Yeah, and what was it like? So for those that are just starting off their Krav Maga journey, you know, a lot of them sit there thinking about, you know, their first grading, their P1 grading, being the scariest thing they've ever done in their life. You know, you can literally see the fear in their eyes when they walk into the P1 grading. What was it like for you going, like receiving that Expert 5 certificate from EAL, you know, and receiving that recognition from EAL that, you know, hey, you're now an Expert 5. What was that like from, you know, your mentor?
I mean, it was when you start your journey, you probably you have a goal. A lot of people, even though they won't admit it, they probably have a goal to become an expert one. Like that expert is at some point you want that recognition, and then once you hit expert 1, it's like, okay, so next will be expert 2, and then expert 3, and then expert 4, and it took quite after the expert 3. I think it took like 7 or 8 years before I tested for expert 4, because it wasn't the level wasn't that important to me. So I didn't have the time to go after it. And then we did the 4, and then we got invited, me and Franklin and Tao and Emmanuel from France. I think it was us. We got invited to Israel to train for the E5 and do the E5 test. So we went, and it was just a week of training and doing some testing, and we did some videoing, and then after that I had to do the project, because all high-level experts need to do a project before their next grade. So from the time I actually finished the test until I got the level took maybe almost a year. But it was a feeling of it was like when you go over the goal line of an obstacle run. It's like, yes, I did this one. I finished. Now when do I start the next one? It's like it's one day. Okay, pat yourself on the back. You did good. You got the E5. You know, you got some bragging rights for the E5. Now, what are you gonna do next? What are you gonna do with your E5? You got to do something with the E5. Okay, so we got to train some more. We got to go teach some more instructors. How can I make my GIC presentation better today than when I was an E4? So that was. Yeah, I was happy to get it. Obviously, I'm proud, but it's not a life-altering moment.
Yeah. And in 2015, was it that you went to Las Vegas was it the martial arts convention or something like that?
Could be 2015. Yeah, probably something like
Yeah.
2015. Yeah.
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 What was that convention called? That one eludes me.
It's a good question. Uh, it's it's a Century Martial Art Convention. No, something with a martial art convention. It's a huge one that they do every year over
Yeah.
there.
But there you got to meet, obviously, Bill Wallace. You got to meet Stephen Hayes. Like, yeah, yeah. So
That was
you're
fun.
smiling a lot there because you're quite
Yeah.
proud about that. So
So listen, when
yeah.
I grew up, um, I think I got my first pair of boxing gloves when I was 8 or 9.
Yeah.
We bought the two kid size of one, um, because I couldn't train. There wasn't any martial art you could train until you were 14.
Mm.
So we bought books on jiu-jitsu and judo and karate, and we were training by ourselves. Ninja movies were just coming out, becoming
Mm.
popular. So we did a lot of martial art training, and uh, once I started the karate, I did that for a while, and then we went into a little bit more kickboxing and stuff. And then I bought a lot of videotapes. So I bought the Bill Superfoot Wallace videotapes on kicking, and
Mm.
I watched all his fights, and I was doing ninjutsu and ninja training, and Stephen Hayes was one of the he was the big guy who was putting out all of the books. He brought it to the US. So
Mm.
these were people I grew up with as idols. These were people I was looking up to.
Mm.
So actually getting to meet them there and train, I was training with Bill Wallace and stuff.
Yeah.
That was super fun. Very, very much.
Yeah. So they did little workshops in there, or what did
Yeah,
they do? Yeah.
yeah.
How long were those
So
workshops?
I think the Stephen Hayes was maybe it was like 1 hour, and the Bill Superfoot was probably like 2 hours or something in the morning, very early in the morning.
Yeah.
So that was
That would have been awesome.
it was that was a very good event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, we're slowly running out of time, but in regards to what you would personally want or hope that people would take away from Krav Maga. So, if someone came in tomorrow to your gym, if your gym was open, of course, because of this whole COVID thing, but someone was contemplating it or something, what would you personally hope that they would take away from it at the end of their journey?
Yeah, I mean, we have a word in Norwegian which is trygghet. It's a mix between safety and security. But it's when you say it can imply that you are safe going into the street. You can feel safe. But it has that cozy. It's also when you're cuddled up in front of the fireplace back home, and you're like you can feel that you're safe, much more than just being attacked. That's what we are trying to give them. Meaning we want to give them the feeling of safety walking in the street, how to avoid being attacked, how to avoid dangerous situations. But at the same time, we also want to give them the safety feeling of you belong to someone, you belong to a group. There's a group of people training with you, and we are your friends. You should come here and feel safe. Whatever happens out there, it's not going to happen in here for an hour and a half, a couple of times a week. And there's the physical aspect. You should feel safe from, hopefully you're not going to get a heart attack because you train with us. You're in physical, much better shape.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I want them to take away from that. And I want them to get all of that through something that's fun. So I want them to have fun while they're learning this. It's serious. I mean, definitely we are teaching people to kick somebody in the head and to create a lot of damage to somebody who is trying to attack us. but it doesn't have to be dead serious the whole time.
Yeah.
They have to have the understanding that this is a serious subject, but we can teach it in a fun and friendly way.
Yeah. Yeah. It as you said earlier, it doesn't need to be taught in a dictatorial fashion.
Yeah.
Mind you, there are instructors out there that like teaching in that way, and power to them. If it works for them, great. But
students are different. Some people like that. Some
Mm.
people, students like to be told exactly what to do and stuff. And some people even like to be shouted at, but that's not really, it's not my preferred style of teaching.
Yeah. Well, Rune, you've been an absolute gentleman. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. Was there anything else that you wanted to add before we finish up?
No, I think that's. I think if we need to be grateful for something, with everything that's happening, is that this happened in 2020. Could you imagine if COVID hit us in 1990? You'd be texting me something, and it would cost you $15 to text from Australia to Norway. Or you have to write me a letter, then I have to put my VCR on and videotape it and send it
Well,
back to you.
1990 would not even be mobile phones.
No, that's true. I think
That's
the first
VHS. We're talking about
Yeah.
VHS and Beta Wars were on 1990.
Yeah. I think 94 I got my first cellular phone. Yeah, 94.
Yeah. So, and that would have been big. You did this. It wasn't that big.
No, actually,
94.
it was the size of an iPhone, just thicker. That was the first one that came out that were like the small, cheap ones.
Okay. Maybe in Australia it was different, because I remember in Australia they were bricks.
Yeah, I mean they were before that. They were the
Yeah.
big ones. Yeah.
Yeah, the good old Nokias.
Yes.
All right. Well, Rune, thank you. As always, it's been a pleasure, and I'll be in touch.
Yes. Perfect.
All
Looking
right.
forward to coming back to Australia, hopefully soon.